I want to talk about a couple of evaluative measures that we use in ecology to look at the performance of ecosystems. And so we might be looking at one ecosystem over time to look at how it's performing, and if we see changes, trying to understand why those changes are occurring. We might also be looking at similar ecosystems at different parts of the world and trying to understand why there are differences. And we also might just be comparing different types of ecosystems to try to understand why one ecosystem works differently than another. And so one of these measures then is what's known as net primary productivity. And so here we're looking at the amount of energy absorbed by producers in an ecosystem. And from that, we take away or subtract the energy consumed by the producers. So what that leaves us with then, if we're looking at the energy absorbed minus the energy consumed by the particular producer, then the energy left over then would be the amount of energy that are in their tissues. So as we relate this to food chains then, what net primary productivity then is measuring the energy in the tissues of the producers. That now becomes the energy available to the consumers in an ecosystem. So by looking at primary productivity then in one ecosystem compared to another, we get an idea of how much energy is available to everyone else in the ecosystem. And again, if you have drop-offs, for example, from year to year in the primary productivity of an ecosystem, that means there's less energy available to all the consumers, and there's going to be a downstream effect from that. So especially those at the top, or you potentially could see population crashes there. So in well-studied ecosystems, for example, a Yellowstone ecosystem, they look carefully at primary productivity from year to year because they're interested in what the downstream effects would be, and then they can make predictions about the effects that will have on some of the consumers, whether it happens to be elk populations or perhaps grizzly populations and so on. And then the other term, and I've been using that term in the module, so I wanted to be sure that I explain that. And then another term, and again, we can look at productivity in different parts of the world, and this is a map basically of productivity. And then another term I've used quite a bit, and it's another way of really kind of looking at the same thing, is just total biomass. And so the term total biomass is literally that. It's an estimate of the mass of all of the living tissue within an ecosystem. And so again, when you look at ecosystems, most of the biomass is tied up in the producers. So there's a lot of correlation between total biomass and primary productivity. So again, as you look at total biomass, changes in total biomass from year to year can affect how ecosystems function and distribution of energy within the ecosystem. So again, net primary productivity, net total biomass then would be ways of evaluating, comparing ecosystems to one another and ecosystems over time.